Hi crafty friends, welcome to another video where I use 4 parameters from the latest episode of Craft Roulette. So I decided that I wanted to do watercolor. I was kind of excited about this image that I found online. It was a coloring page. And I thought it'd be really cute to kind of copy it and do a watercolor of it. So I'm cutting down some Canson watercolor paper. So a couple of the parameters of this card really threw me, but I needed the fold, 3 folds, and I had this die that I recently got of this little envelope, and I knew it was 3 folds, and I cut it out of a Post-it. So I measured the size of the envelope and printed out that little coloring page so that that envelope was the same size, because I'm going to actually use it instead of the envelope that's on the drawing. So I did a quick little trace. I didn't go crazy into details. I just kind of wanted an idea of where everything was. And you know, so it's the same image, but when I do watercolor, I just kind of do a little sketch of what I wanted. I ended up realizing it was a little too dark, so I used my gummy eraser and lightened the lines. I do that a lot because I don't realize how dark I'm kind of pushing until I see it done. So, but that works out great. It doesn't ruin the watercolor paper at all. I forgot to mention I used a light box that I got from Amazon so that I could light it. I turned all the lights off, and that it always works better when you turn the lights off, so that I could see the image through watercolor paper, and it works beautifully. The reason I used an internet coloring page was because I needed it to be the exact size of that envelope, and even though I had some gnome stamps, they weren't going to match up to that little envelope. So I went searching and did a Google search of Valentine's Day gnome coloring page, and that one came up really quickly. So that's where I got that, because then I could use the parameter of shoes. I'm going to play some music while I continue to color this image. just finishing up with the pink. I decided on that pink for the background because it was going to bring in that really bright pink of the Post-it envelope. And I'm really glad I had a watercolor that would kind of match that little envelope. So I wanted to put a little heart on the closing of the envelope, and I watercolored a little tiny scrap and punched out this heart. And that's my little trick. When it's a tiny piece of paper, I attach to a Post-it and run it through. And then I realized I can make confetti all along the card with this Post-it and get to use the Post-it even more. So now I want to trim it down a little bit. I normally just trim it with my trimmer, but I have these nesting dies, and I thought running it through might help flatten it a little bit. So I just did the very biggest one just to give it a tiny bit of an edge. Now I decided to use a lot of tape instead of glue so that it could really stick down to the cardstock. And now I'm just going to glue all my parts. Now this is a Post-it, so I didn't want to use glue in case it made it a little ripple. So I decided to use the double stick tape as well. Those are my 3 folds. So I have my sweater colors, Valentine's Day sweater, my shoes, my 3 folds, and the Post-it. So there's all my parameters. So I'm gluing on his little hands because he's holding on to the envelope. I'm going to glue down that little heart, which kept sticking to my finger. And you had to use more glue apparently. And then I'm going to use my little Post-it punch outs to add a little embellishment around to bring that pink out to the outside of the card a little bit more. These parameters at first, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had to sit on it for a couple days, but once I figured out what I wanted to do, I had a lot of fun making this card. I think that the 3-fold was the first tackle, and once I figured out that envelope, everything kind of clicked pretty quickly. The Post-it was also kind of a difficult one, but once I figured out I had a pink Post-it, I was good to go. And there's my finished card. Thanks so much for watching. Have a crafty day.